Hi, it's Phil again from Spokes Education, and I wanted to wrap up the Building a Team series of videos by talking a little bit about our recruitment process. It's a question we've been asked a couple of times about, so I'd like to tell you how we do things and what's worked for us. Our recruitment process is a little bit different to how most people do things. We like to sort of split into two parts. The first part, obviously, we want to know about the person, and this is where kind of the attitude side comes into it. But obviously, of course, we want to see people's skills as well. So it's really, really important when you're taking on a new member of staff, whether that's a first person or whether that's a 50th person, again, I've talked about in previous videos that they're the right fit, and I talked about that from an attitude and skills perspective in the previous videos. So how do you kind of establish whether that will be the right fit for you? What we've done previously, when I first started Spokes Education, it was really difficult to kind of take that leap and put faith into someone you didn't know particularly. And again, like I said in previous videos, I talked about working with people you do know, people you've worked with before, so that trust is already there. Now, if you're coming into it a little bit colder and you don't know that person, you want to see what they can do. You want to see how they work. Two really clear ways for me of how we've done that and how you can do that as well. The first way is ideal. If you can do this, it's not always possible. But if you can get that person on a short-term contract, whether that's a freelance contract themselves, and take them on for a project, and then you get that will tell you everything you need to know about that person and how they work. That will be, for me, the clearest way, and that's what we've done previously. We've done it where we've either started with working with someone as a freelancer, then offered them a full-time job later, or we've worked and invited somebody in to come and work with us just for a month, whether that's on a specific project or just generally to kind of to go, to see how they get on. And then we've been able to kind of assess how that person fits in, what their work is like, etc. And that's been really, really useful. And from that, we've managed to take some really great staff that may not have, I don't know, but they may not have appealed so much through the normal kind of recruitment process. I think they would have, but I think there's some people out there that may not have. So if you can do that, that's ideal. Now, that is difficult when someone else is already in an existing job, and they don't have the time to do that. So the other thing we do on the other side of it, if someone is working on that, is that we ask them to do an assessment. And there's a little bit of contention around asking people to do assessments, and I think it's got a bit of a bad rep from some organizations. But for me, if you do it in the right way, then there's it's the best way to go about assessing somebody's skills and again assessing how they work and to see if they'll fit within your processes and within your organization. So if you do set up assessment, there's some really, really important things to do. The first thing is make sure, don't ask them to do something that is a live project, because you're asking them to do some work for you essentially for free. Don't do that. Two reasons. One, it's high risk for you because again, you don't know what they're like. And two, it's a bit of a dick move as well. And it's not very ethical. So don't do that. What we do is we take an existing or an old project, should I say, or existing project sometimes, but normally an old project. And we put something together that we've already done. And the beauty of that is, one, we've got a baseline already as to what we expect, and we can see where someone fits into that. And the other thing is, it's the right way to do things from an ethical perspective. Again, you'll understand how long it should take. You'll understand what the quality should be like, rather than coming to something a little bit, that's new to you as well. The other thing as well, set kind of a time limit on it. Don't make an assessment like take someone a whole week. We try and set it so for a more senior role it might take 4 to 6 hours, for a junior role 2 maximum, and make it specific to the job that you're going for as well, or that you're advertising for. Again, for me, there's some multiple benefits of that. First thing is you will see exactly how they work with the things that you're doing. And two, they will also get a taste of what it is like to work for you, so that not only will they get a sense of the kind of work they'll be doing, but actually they're getting to actually do it. And they'll again, for me, when people are going for jobs, they should be kind of interviewing you as much as you interview them, and they should be assessing whether they want to come and work for you as well. So it gives them a taste into kind of the kind of work they can expect to be doing. So those two things. So those things are really, really important for me if you're setting assessments. And the final point on assessments, what I say is that do it in such a way that, again, it's not an assessment where they're kind of going away and doing it cold. They're doing it in a collaborative way, as if they were part of your organisation. So again, something we do when we set an assessment is we give them a very clear brief, but we also invite them and encourage them to ask questions. We will have conversations with them. We'll talk them through things, and we'll kind of make sure that, again, they'll be getting the same support than they would be getting if they were sat in our organisation already. So another important thing to do is give feedback as well. So that feedback is really, really essential. One, so that they know what they did do well and they didn't do well, and again, it will give them some reason as to why perhaps they didn't get the role if they weren't successful. And again, if they weren't successful, it will give them something to work on so they can go and give themselves a better chance in future opportunities. So that feedback for me is really, really important. And then the last thing you can do for that candidate is to provide them with the files you've given them. Obviously debrand them, make sure there's no kind of issue with permissions, but you can allow them to use that work they've done for you as part of their portfolio as well. So again, it comes down to an ethical thing around assessments. But again, if you do it in the right way, I think there's benefits to you, there's benefit to the candidate as well. And hopefully you don't have any of this kind of grey area where people are concerned, and that transparency up front as well, to let them know that this is an old project, this is something you've done already, you're not doing fresh work for us, you're not working for free for us. And again, build that transparency and trust, which again, I talked a lot about in previous videos. So that assessment will come in, and that for me is the most important part of the recruitment process. The other parts that we do, like I said, we obviously put a job description out. Again, we try and make it as clear as possible. We always ask for a covering letter. We always ask for a CV, and we ask for a portfolio if it's applicable. From that, again, we get a really good sense of that individual. The covering letter for me is probably the most important thing, because that's where someone can really start to sell themselves. If someone sends you a cookie cutter covering letter, or quite often they don't send one at all, to me that it's a bit of a red flag, especially as we specifically put in our advertisements that we want a covering letter. So if they haven't sent one, they've either don't care about it or they haven't read it properly, and therefore, either way, probably not right for us. So once we've done that, we'll assess the application, the CV, covering letter, portfolio. If we think, okay, we like the look of this person, that's when we invite them to do the assessment. If the assessment's good, we'll invite them to interview. And we'll use that interview process to talk to them, and they can talk us through their process they've been through with the assessment. And again, you get a really good sense. You can ask them questions, technical questions. You can ask them questions about how they approach something, any challenges they had. And again, you get a really good sense of that individual, how they work. Within that interview as well, we don't ask any skills-based questions. Again, we gather all we need from them from the assessment or their portfolio. And we use the rest of that interview to get to know them, and we ask questions around them and get to know them a little bit better. So that's kind of what we do in terms of our recruitment process. It's hard work at times, but like I said, if you do things in the right way, then you'll feel rewarded for doing it, and hopefully all your candidates, whether they're successful or not, will benefit as well. We've had lots of positive comments on our process from people who have been successful and not successful, and how much they've actually enjoyed it and how useful it's been to them as well. So again, from an ethical perspective, make sure your recruitment is done properly. Give feedback to everyone if you can. At least let them know, at least tell them, I can't stand it when people don't even get a response. What we try and do is actually give personalised feedback to every single candidate. And even when we've had over 100 candidates for one of our jobs previously, I've made sure to go and give personalized feedback to every single one of them. And like I said, it's not something that, I'm telling you must do, but again, from an ethical perspective, that's what I feel is the right thing to do should you have time, or at least make sure you put some time aside to give some kind of feedback, even if it's just a templated type of thing to sort of say, sorry, your skills don't match what we're looking for. So yeah, that's how we do things, and hopefully that's been useful. If you've got any specific questions on recruiting, or if you're kind of, you get to that stage where you're thinking about taking someone on and you want to, some advice on, job descriptions and things like that, please feel free to get in touch. I'm more than happy to chat about it. Got lots of experience in recruitment now, and like I said, we've got a really good track record of taking on real high quality and great staff. So I feel like this works. Like I said, I don't know the science behind it. I'm not saying this is the only way to do it. It's what works for us as a digital agency, from a small perspective, small digital agency, and in the context of trying to build a real tight-knit team of people who understand their jobs and enjoy their roles. So that's it for today. Thank you very much, and we'll speak to you again soon.